Yeah, so we are recording. Hooray. I guess we'll do introductions real quick.
Okay.
My name's Katie Smith. I am the technology teacher at Mount Hope Elementary. And then we have our moderator / other presenter as well. You want to go?
Hi. Yeah, I'm Hannah Johnson. I teach 6th grade ELA over at North Middle School. So I'm excited to be here and have used most of these tools and excited to share those with you guys. And I think Katie is going to go ahead and put up our slides if you guys want to follow along. There's a link in the question and answer session as well. So if you guys have questions, we built in a couple times to stop for questions and answers. So hopefully we'll be able to get to those for you guys as well.
All right, so the topics that we are going to talk about, hopefully in this hour, as fast as we can without going too fast. We're going to talk about Kahoot, Quizlet, Quiziz, Time to Climb, and Socrative. So the very first one that is the most popular one that we know people have talked about is Kahoot. So we probably won't spend a whole lot of time on Kahoot just because a lot of people are familiar with Kahoot. But for those of you who are not, Kahoot is a game-based learning platform where students get to log on to a second device and answer a question and compete against their classmates in order to answer the questions. So we're just going to kind of run through that. So in order to get there, you want to make sure that you go to kahoot.com in order to be able to log in. If you go to kahoot.it, that's going to take you to where you go to play the game. So I always log in, and I just log in with Google, so that way I don't have to remember any kind of password or anything like that. Hence why it goes so fast for me when it logs in, except for now I have an advertisement, of course, to expand my package. That's obnoxious. Let's see if I it just took me straight to an ad. I'm like, I don't want to go to the ad. Okay, so there are lots of different options that you can look for on Kahoot. So this Discover tab up here is what you're going to click on if you want to go find a Kahoot that's already made. And you can pick over millions of different options as far as what your Kahoot is. You can also make your own Kahoot. So if you click this Create button, this is where you can start to create your own based on from scratch. So what's nice about Kahoot now is they've offered different templates. You just have to be careful because these ones with the crowns are premium options. So if you wanted to use those, you would have to pay for those. But you can still have a formative assessment. Students can take selfies. This one, the getting to know your teacher at the beginning of the year, is very nice, especially if you have some virtual kiddos, if you're a virtual instructor, or if we ended up switching. This would be a good Kahoot to play when you first start meeting your kiddos. So for example, I'd click this one. And so what's nice about the templates is it already has the kind of stuff set up for you. And then there's pictures you can pick, but again, you'd have to pay for those. And then you can add a question over here, so you can kind of go through them and click and see. And then let's click add a question if you want to click more. And then here is, where you'd put in your answers. Here's where you do your time, how much it's worth. Over here it says single select. So the multi-select is the option again, but that's a premium option. Really pushing for that premium. So I guess it could be worth it if you really wanted to pay for it. You might be able to put it in your budget money, but there's that. You can import. So if you have something on Google Slides, you can import that, or you could also import from a spreadsheet. So if you downloaded the template, you could save that as your original template, and then you could make a copy of it every time and just put your questions in there for each one. So this is what that one would look like. As far as, this is your answers go here and your question would go over here, and they give you the max of what you want to put just so that you don't go too far. And then you could fill it out and save it, or you can drag it and drop it as well. So the question is, how do I like add one? So let's say if I was doing one and I wanted to do a topic about, I don't even know, ecosystems. So I would search for ecosystems. And then again, I always try and look at like how much it's been played. And then I also like to look at who made that's the Kahoot. So like this one's made by Columbia University and it's been played 24,000 times. I'm like, that's probably going to be a decent one. So you can click on it and it's going to load and it's going to show you the question, the picture that they picked with it. And then if you clicked on it, you're going to get to see your answer choices and then the correct answer as well. So you can kind of do two things. You can favorite your Kahoot and it's going to put it in your favorites. You can, well, this one it won't let you apparently. Normally you can duplicate it. I guess they turned that off where you can make it your own and then edit it, but I guess they didn't want that for theirs. So in this case, you just want to favorite it so you can still find it later on. That would be your option there. So you can play this. And so what's new about this now is you can do this live. So if you are doing a virtual classroom or if your kids are in class and you wanted to kind of assess how things went, then in that moment in time and get that live data, you could go right here with the virtual classroom. However, what's nice now is Kahoot is you can also do self-paced learning and you can assign this almost kind of like a homework or like a personal self-check. So if you click the assign button, what they're going to ask you to do is pick a date that it's due. And so the most that you can go out is about a month. But if you need to change it, you can always come back in later and change it. And they also suggest that when you do this, you turn your timer off, just because it is supposed to be self-paced and it kind of helps reduce that pressure of, trying to answer as fast as possible. Instead, more give them time to really think about it and answer the question. And then click create. And then it's going to give you that link, which will be right here. And then you can copy that URL. And then your game pin is right here as well. So that's kind of the information you would need for those kiddos to join. I think we're going to wait to show you what to do with those links in a minute, and we're just going to show you guys the apps first.
Yeah, because each different tech tool will generate one of those links to share with kids. And there's a couple different ways that you can share those out. So we're going to show you guys how to do that a couple different ways, especially in Canvas, because each of these tools, you create the assignments pretty much the same way. So.
So then the last thing I want to talk about is the reports. So you'll have this reports tabs up here. And so you can kind of see who has played your different Kahoots here. So these are some of the ones that I kind of played at the end of the year with my kiddos, just as like a fun activity. So if you click on that specific one, it's going to load your reports. And so it kind of gives you some basic information up here. And then you can view your podium. So like at the end, it shows your winners. So if you're wanting that for a specific reason. So it kind of groups things into difficult questions. So a question that a lot of students missed. So these two ones, and it shows that 0 of them got it right, and then only 50% got it right.
And can I jump in really quick? Those reports are for both the live games and the self-paced games. You'll be able to see both of those on that reports tab.
And then, so this over here shows you the kiddos that are going to need help based on their percentage correct. So like this is a fun game. It's not so much that it matters, but when you're going more content specific, that's really helps like individualize your small groups to see concepts that kids are really struggling with. And so you could pick on the kiddo's name. So this is all of his information. And so I can see which ones he got correct, as well as which ones he got incorrect. And then like how long it took for him to answer that question. So is it more he didn't give himself enough time to answer that, or did he spend a lot of time? I think most of these are like 20, 30 seconds, and he's taking 16. So it might be something to talk about with him as well. So they used to create a Google spreadsheet when you were automatically done. So if you still want that spreadsheet, you can still get that. It's on this page still on the report options on the top. You can download your report, print it, and then there are some other reports that I think they just all go in there. So you can still get that spreadsheet if you want that spreadsheet of those specific ones to keep for your records, but it's still now going to be in this area so you don't lose it. Anything I need to add about that? Questions?
I don't think so. We've only had a couple questions, and I think you answered those for Kahoot. So
Okay.
I think we're probably ready to move on to the next tool.
Okay. I'm trying to get this box to go away. We're doing quizzes. Right.
Either Quizzes or Quizlet.
I'll do Quiz just because they're so similar. So Quiz is going to be very, very similar to Kahoot in the way that they are played and finding games. I think the major difference between the two is creating the quiz. So with this one, you can still search for a Kahoot, not a Kahoot, a Quizzes, sorry. And again, they're going to have like millions and millions and millions of quizzes that you can search from that people have made. So if we were learning about antonyms, why did I pick a word that I don't? So if you wanted to search for antonyms, these are going to be your options as well. Again, I always look at how often they were played, and this one's nice because it shows you the grade level that they were meant for, and they can be given likes. What's nice about this one as well is with Kahoot, you had to go and click on it, whereas this one's going to give you the preview over here on the side, so you can see if you like the options that are here. So like this one gives a word, and then they have to find the antonym for it. So if you do like this one, you can click the save button, and it's going to save it to your collections. So if I wanted to add this one too. So I've made a folder already called grammar. So that way it's nice and organized, and I can put specific topics into a specific folder to help better find them. And then you can also create new collections as you go. So if I wanted to make a new one, I could type it in there. But I wanted to add it to here, so then my quiz is added. And then I can just click out of that screen. And then you can see here, this has turned blue. So that means that I have saved that quiz. So to find it, you go to my library, and then here are all of the quizzes that I have saved. Again, collections is just going to be an easier way to find your stuff because it's going to be grouped into those folders that you've made. So then I could go into just the grammar and see just those specific ones that I've saved. So playing it, again, is going to be similar to Kahoot. You can play live. So again, students are going to need some kind of device, a second device where they can play. Hannah, is this the one you said that you've had them split their screen and play?
So yeah, I can talk a little bit about playing live with this one. So if you play live in class, as long as the students each have their own Chromebook, they actually see the questions and the answer choices on their own screen, and they actually get to move at their own pace. So Kahoot, each question was controlled by the teacher's pace, so they wouldn't see the next question until you click next. With quizzes, they actually work at their own pace, and then up on the big screen, as a teacher, I would go ahead and show the leaderboard. So it would see, as a class, you could see how many correct responses overall, how many incorrect, and then like your top 10 students who are scoring the best. If you can play live virtually as well, if you're using like a video conferencing tool like WebEx or Google Meet or something like that. And then if you wanted to assign one as self-paced, then you would just do the assign homework button.
And that's going to be similar in where you have to set a due date. And then this one's nice because you can control kind of your settings more. So you can control your attempts, if they get to see the answers or not. You can also control, like, if you want a timer on, like if you don't want to make it as competitive, you can turn the leaderboard off. If you like want to shuffle your questions so they're not always the same every time you play it. If you don't want music to play, kind of you want them to just work at their own pace. Another thing that's really nice about quizzes is this one has funny memes after each question. So it just kind of makes it a little bit fun, just because there's like positive, things to say after each question.
And the other thing I like about quizzes is that it allows you up to 15 minutes per question. So you can also, it gives you more options for question types. Like you can do multiple choice, you can do true, false, fill in the blank. You can also add images without having to use the paid option. So sometimes, like if I teach sixth grade, so if I have the students reading a paragraph and then like making an inference about it, sometimes I'll upload that paragraph as an actual picture. So if you have a lot of text heavy questions, quizzes is really good for that just because you get more space to put the question and kids get more time to actually answer the questions. So she's, I think, showing you how to kind of create that. This one, I believe you can also add audio. So if you want to have the questions read to students or like for secondary teachers who are doing foreign language, you can actually add an audio clip as part of the question as well.
So like, yeah, so here, so you can put, because you can put a picture in here, right?
Yeah, pictures, audio.
So
and those are all included with the free version.
Yeah, so this would be like you could draw, like you could screenshot a paragraph and you could upload that image, and then you can audio record, or you can also upload one as well. And then here's where she's saying you can change that time limit to 15. Apparently you can only pick 3 minutes for this type of question. You can't pick 15. Oh, there we go. Got it. Oh, and you can also align it to state standards as well. But we're in Missouri. So you could go through that. I guess they don't have Missouri on here. So you could go find state standards, apparently. And then save it. And so that would be my first question. And then you can add another question. So sometimes what's nice about these is you can do these poll questions. So if you think about like Nearpod or any of those, if you want to like check in, then you can kind of say like, how did you feel after this assessment? You can put that question in here as well. So there's just different multiple, so you're not just limited to your multiple choice. You have checkbox, fill in the blank, a poll, and then your open-ended questions as well. And then I think we're good there. And then I guess you could go in here and you can create your own meme set. So if you're kind of hesitant about the memes that are showing up, you can go and find, you can name it and then go and find your memes so you can feel more comfortable about those memes that are showing up. Or you can make them relevant to the content that you're teaching. So that's what's really nice about there as well. Anything else on that one?
I don't think so. We just got a question about going back and changing answers. So one thing I like about quizzes is that it does have the multiple attempts. It doesn't go by question, but it goes by the entire quiz. So if you're trying to do something for mastery, a lot of times I'll let my kids do it unlimited or set like 3 times and then take their best score. The other cool thing is they have power-ups. So if you turn power-ups on, sometime if a student misses like 3 questions in a row, it'll allow them the ability to go back and answer one of those. I think it's called like redemption question. So it includes a little bit more options for keeping the kids motivated and allowing them to redo for mastery. So that's one thing I do like about quizzes.
And it comes with fun graphics. Yeah, here's your power-ups and power play. Yeah, I just was going through there and showing like that in your, so this is where I hit the assign button, and so I just scroll down to your options to show what she was talking about. So here's your student attempts. Right now it's on unlimited, so you could limit it, So if you did one, they're not going to be able to go back and do it, but you can change it to here. So if you're only doing the top 3, then that's what you can do. But then they're going to be required to log in order that. So sometimes it's just easier to leave it on unlimited. And then here's the power ups button she was talking about to kind of help give them a chance to boost their score. Any other thing?
I think so. Did you show them where to find the URL to share, like when you're
Yes.
assigning a game? Okay.
So once you've kind of answered all your stuff about when it's due, you've filled out all of the things that you want, you're going to hit continue. And then as soon as you do that, it's going to give you your link here. So you just click this little copy the link, and it'll say it's copied. And then you'll need this code here. So there's where your code is as well. And then, Perfect. So if students have all taken the quiz and they're done before your due date and you don't want them to go back anymore, you can hit the end game and it's going to end that deadline. And then here's where you would go as well to edit that due date. So I'm like, oh, I didn't want August 13th and now I want the 25th. You can go and automatically, that's when it changes that there. And that is in the reports tab is where you're finding that. So if you click reports, it says it's running, and then there's where you would go to edit that timeline. Okay. Click the stupid tab thing again.
Yeah, I think the next one we have is Quizlet to show you guys. And one thing I'll mention, another tip for some of the secondary teachers, I have 6th graders and they actually have created their own Kahoots and Quizlet, which is the one we're about ready to show you. So as an option to assess students, a lot of secondary students could actually create their own games to share or to study. That's definitely something that they're capable of doing. Quizzes is a little bit trickier for students to make their own. I would definitely stick to either Kahoot or Quizlet if you're having students actually doing the creating of the games.
Yeah, and I think they want you to use these as more as a formative assessment, but there are way more options that you could also use Kahoot and Quizzes and Quizlet, like a bell ringer, or if you're creating a lesson, it's good to use as like your check-in to assess prior knowledge. So it's kind of an assessment in the beginning and then an assessment at the end. Like it'll give you your good like pre-post test kind of data from both of those. That's also good for, helping kids kind of study content, vocabulary and things like that. Yeah, and there's that. Sure, you're on. Okay. Hannah, do you want me to keep going, or are you going to talk about Quizlet?
I can do Quizlet, or you, it's up to you.
It doesn't matter to me.
Do you want to do Quizlet and I'll take the last 2?
Yeah, that works.
All right.
Okay. So this is Quizlet. Again, Quizlet's going to have a lot of similarities to Kahoot and to Quiziz, with just one slight variation. So if what Quizlet looks like is basically flashcards, if you've never seen Quizlet before. So this is what it looks like. So you give your vocabulary word on one side, and then if you click it, you get your definition on the other side. And it also provides an image to help students if they're trying to figure out what that word is. So there are a lot of different options you can do it. So this is one that I had already made. So if you scroll down, I think I'm getting ahead of myself. So let me go back and talk about what you can do. So there are a lot of different things that you can do with Quizlet. So the main one that a lot of people use it for is for flashcards. So for example, I did science, learning the vocabulary with science. I know for elementary we have reading those vocabulary words. We're just trying to reinforce those words. What's nice about this one is they also have spell. So the spell is nice because if you're trying to get kiddos to work on their spelling, so especially in those younger ones, trying to type what they hear, or even, as an assessment, like a spelling test, you can use that for that as well. So Quizlet, again, has 2 options. You can search for one that has already been made. And so then these are your different topics that you can pick. So like I'm like, So it'll show you a preview of what you can see there. So these are kind of your words, and then these are your definitions, and then these are the pictures that they've associated with. You can change what you want to search for. So again, this is going to have your premium options, where your options you're going to have to pay for. So it might be best to click free before you start looking. And then you can also change who created it. So this can just be by anybody. So if a kid is getting on and making their own, your content might not be as great. So you can go to verified creator, which just means that they picked specific teachers or adults to create that study set, so you know it's of a decent quality. But it's not always guaranteed that you're going to find something there. So sometimes you just have to click all and then just check and make sure that it really gives you what you needed. So if you found out that, hey, this doesn't really have the terms that I needed, you can go create your own. So how you do that is, if you're back at your home page, which I always just click the little Quizlet button, you can click the create button, and it's going to allow you to create a new study set. So I think I was just starting a random one. So like I did 21 living versus non-living things. And then you can go in here and you can start typing in your set. So let's say I wanted to do what is a non-living thing. And then this is where you would write your definition. And then earlier we were talking about how you could change the language over here. So Hannah had mentioned before, if you're teaching Spanish and you wanted to go from English to Spanish, that's why this Spanish was turned on, to make sure, you know, that hello said hola, you know, so, but I don't need that, so I turned it back to English. I think those are the only two. We have to pay for the other ones, but sign language would be a good one for high school. And then once you do that, then you can go and add an image. So I typed in the word non-living, and so then I would look for something that's non-living. And then this would be the picture that would be associated with it. And then I can just keep going and click add card and click create when I'm done. The other option is if you already have, like I know for elementary science, we have like pages upon pages of words already made. And instead of having to retype those all, you can import them. So the way that you would do that is you would just copy that whole page and paste all of those words and definitions into here. And then you can kind of control how you want those cards to be set up. So it gives you an example. So for, you could have a word and then a tab, so a space in between and a definition, and that's going to be a card. And then this is going to be a card. And then every new line is a new card. Or you can change it, and instead of putting spaces in there, you just put commas in between, and then you can do a semicolon in between each card. So this would be a card, this would be a card, and then this would be a card. And then you can just copy and paste from whatever document that you have into there to create your cards. So go back. So if I wanted to share this, so if I just went and picked something from my grammar folder that I had already made, so if I was sharing something on adjectives, you're going to click on the set that you want to share, and then you're going to click the share link, and then this is going to copy the link, and then we'll show you what to do with that in just a couple minutes once we get through these.
Did you mention Quizlet Live at all as an option?
Not.
Okay.
So there is the live option. Do you want to talk about Quizlet?
Sure, I can. So with Quizlet Live, it's very similar to Kahoot, where you can do this as a class. So up on the teacher's screen, it'll show like a leaderboard. And on student computers, you can kind of see in the picture there in the bottom left, On student screens, they'll see a question with a list of possible answer choices. You have two options for how to play. You can play, typically I've done it as a team, so that you can see, like in this example, there's two groups of students. There's a team of three and then another team of three. What happens is that it actually divides up the answer choices. So every single student has different answer choices. So they have to sit together, they have to talk about it, they have to decide as a team because only one of them has the correct answer on their screen. Because of everything going on, obviously we don't, want students sitting right next to each other working as a team. They also have the individual option. So that way the student sees the question as well as all the answer choices, and they play as an individual, not necessarily on a team. But Quizlet Live, again, it's very similar to Kahoot. It's, very quick, fast paced. You do have to have at least, I believe it's 6 like flashcards in order to play. If you have anything less than 6, it won't let you. But that's just kind of another fun thing to do live with your students in the classroom. You can also do it virtually too, using like a web video conferencing tool as well.
And then I also don't think I mentioned it, but what's nice about this is you can also create a test from your Quizlet cards. Let that load. So you can change what you want on your test. So if you go to your options, so right now I have 67 vocabulary cards, which is a lot for a test. So you might decide maybe you only want 20 of those. You can decide maybe just pull 10 and see what they really know out of those 10. And it's going to give you the options. So if you want, all of those specific ones, you can leave them there. But maybe you have a kid with a modification who is able to speak his answers instead of writing them. You can take that written portion off, so you don't have to worry about that as well. Down here, you can determine what you want. Do you want them to give the definition of something, or do you want them to give the term of that definition? And then you can you can switch those around if you want to. Rating options, where you can require one answer, mark it as correct when at least one answer is provided, and then make sure you can show your images. So then once you're good with that, you can click create new tests. So then here's what your test is going to look like. So they have a picture, and then they have to match that picture to here. Here's their multiple choice options, and then here, and then you check your answers. Those are the ones that I had. So that's nice too. And I think it changes it for each kid so that they don't have the same answers. And I think there was reports on that.
With Quizlet, I believe the reports are actually a paid option. I know that when you do Quizlet Live, it shows you a list of questions that most of the students know and got correct. It shows you a list of the questions that students struggled with answering, and it always displays immediately after playing or after ending the game. So if you're doing it as like an exit ticket, then it'll, you save 5 minutes for the end of class, and it immediately shows you the top 2 or 3 questions that you would need to review with students.
Yeah, I don't think that, and two, I think like what's nice about Kahoot and quizzes is they have a tab where you can go and click on reports. Whereas this one, I think you have to go to that set, and then you can see down here. I think there was one, I can't remember which one it was that I got to, but it said on the bottom, like, have difficulty with, and then are successful with, and then haven't answered. I think it's that it gives. It's not very specific as to like each kid and how they did. Oh, maybe it's this one.
And Katie, I don't know if anyone else is having this issue, but I'm having trouble seeing your screen. I don't know if there was a way that you got out of that, or if anyone else is having that problem.
You still can't see it? Oh.
I was just curious because I can also try to switch if you want me to present the last 2.
Yeah. Did you get to see everything else though?
Yep. Just the last like minute or 2 you were cutting out.
I think I clicked on something. I found that set. Hold on one second. Is that better?
There we go. Yep.
Okay.
You're back.
Yay! So this was the set that I was messing around with and I took quizzes on. So this was so this is basically the reports again. It's not as detailed, so it's often missed. For me, when I took this, it says your recent answers have been mostly wrong for these three terms. And then when I was doing it, these were the ones that I always got right. And then it says no answers yet, meaning I haven't studied these cards to figure out the answers when I was doing my assessment. Oh, and now I'm frozen. Okay. All right.
All right.
Now, I think I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, we're going to switch gears. I'm going to go ahead and present the last two tools to you guys. We've got Time to Climb, which is actually one of the activity choices in Nearpod, if you guys have ever used Nearpod before. And then the other one is going to be Socrative.
All right, Hannah.
All right, you see my screen okay? Here we go. So with Time to Climb, it's kind of a video here. Let me mute this and I can kind of talk about it, but it's embedded into Nearpod. So it's an activity that kids get to pick like a little avatar. You use quiz questions. They're all multiple choice, but then they can see their little avatar as they answer questions correctly. They get to move up. I've used this with my sixth graders. They haven't thought it was too babyish, so they definitely enjoyed it. And it's built into Nearpod, which our district has that access to, the subscription. So which is nice. And there's already a ton of games already built in Nearpod that you can search through. And I'll show you how to get to those here in just a second. Again, just kind of the same uses. You could use it for review, exit ticket, fun reward. So to find a game, there's actually the library here, which I'll show you. You can see the school library, the district library, or you can just go to Nearpod. And Time to Climb is right down here. So you can search by grade level. And then, of course, over here on the left, you've got different filters. Once you find one that you like let's say, how about what is poetry? I can preview the lesson, preview the questions. And then if this is a particular game that I like, then I can just hit add to my library. So there's kind of a little preview of it. So this is what it looks like on the student's screen, and they all answer. The pace of the questions is controlled by the teacher. So if I add this to my library, then it should show up. Let's see if I can go back to my library here. All right. So here it is, the what is poetry. So with Nearpod, you have two options. Again, you can do this live. So if I hit live participation, I would show this screen up on my projector. Students would go to join.nearpod.com. They would enter this code, and then I would control the pace of the question. So that'd be something that we could play in class together. Or you could do it live virtually, again, using one of those video tools. So the other option, and by the way, the code always displays up here in the corner. So if you have students who are joining in late, they can always do that. And then the other way to assign the time to climb, you can also do student paced. So students can log on at any time, answer the questions. Again, they just have that code. It's the same directions pretty much. You would just need to share that link. So you have the option for the link right down here that you can then copy, and we'll show you how to put that in Canvas later. With Nearpod, if you go to the three dots, once you've assigned something, you also have the ability to look at the reports. And I don't think I've actually played this one, so I don't know if there's going to be any data, but you can also see your reports you can get to over here on this left side as well. Let's see if I have one that already has some information in it. I don't think I do, but you can also search for games that your coworkers have shared. You have access to the school library and then also a district library of games that have already been created by other teachers. Similar to the other tools, you can create folders. So if you want to organize your games, you can do that in Nearpod.
Hannah, you don't have to show it, but just as I mentioned, there is in the slides that we're sharing a video that I created that has kind of a breakdown of the reports and what
Oh,
those look
okay.
like.
So if I
Show
go
it.
to, yeah, so we're going to share the link to these slides. Again, I think it's actually in the question and answer section, but you have access to this, so you can use it as a table of contents. So if you want to know more about what it is, ideas for use, you can search for a game. I didn't really talk too much about creating your own, but there's a video tutorial here that'll walk you through the steps. It's basically the same way as you're creating a quiz, and then it just takes those quiz questions into the game. Quizzes with question and answer character lengths, they just be careful that you're not exceeding more than 400 or 100 characters. And I think there's also some time limits here. I think you have about up to 2 minutes to answer each question. And then let's see, play live. Oh, here's the reports tab. So this right here can kind of walk you through. You can see, here I'll play it without the sound and kind of walk you through it. So, so again, you can get to the reports by this tab over here, or you can also click on the actual game. And then let's see, so it'll show you each session. So if you teach secondary, I would recommend doing a different session for each of your classes. So you'd have like a session for your first hour, a session for your second hour. Here you can see the person's name that they entered. You can see the general, how many got it correct or skipped. You can take a look at the poll questions, the time to climb questions. So it gives you some options there as far as reports. You can also go in and see the class board, which will show you each individual question. So here you can take a look at every single question for a little bit more detailed data and reports as well. Just kind of skip through that. But you guys can always go back to these. Like I said, we have video tutorials on every single slide, so you can come and get exactly what you need. And other than that, I know that was kind of fast, but Katie, is there anything I'm missing for time to climb that you can think of?
So the only thing I can think of is just, did you talk about so this one is good. So if you're using Nearpod, which I think Hannah said for like a lesson, is really good for a check-in. So as you're teaching a lesson, and again, it's really similar to Kahoot in that it's kind of the competitiveness of it. But I don't.
Yeah, so when you go in to create a Nearpod, they have other activities too, so it doesn't have to just be the time to climb. So you also can add videos, you can add slides, you can add audio, you could add a PDF, you could do a fill in the blanks, a matching, you can combine a time to climb with a Flipgrid. So the time to climb is just one activity that's part of a larger Nearpod lesson. So that's kind of another neat thing about Nearpod. And then I think that's probably it for Nearpod. And then the last one that I have is Socrative. So Socrative gives you a couple different options for games and things. Space Race is going to be the game where the students are answering questions, trying to get them correct, and it's live in class. A quiz, just students answering questions. The neat thing with Socrative is that there's an exit ticket. So if you want something fast, these are already pre-made questions. So how well did you understand today's material? What did you learn in today's class? You've got please answer the teacher's question. So if you just want to share a question verbally with students or have a question written on the board, they have different options here. You can just do a generic multiple choice, true, false, short answer if you want to just throw up one question to students. With Socrative, again, these are the activities that you launch. And to create a quiz, let's see. So I have one for get to know your teacher. You can add a quiz over here. You can import. So if you have another coworker, you can share quizzes that way. There's not really a big bank of quizzes like all the other tools that we've showed you. So that is one kind of drawback for Socrative, is that really you would either have to create your own or just share with other teachers that you know personally. You can make it private or enable sharing. Again, there's that option. For Socrative, you have 3 different types of questions. You can do multiple choice, true, false, or short answer. You can add images to your quizzes. You can add explanations. So if students pick the right or wrong answer, you can explain why that choice, and you can align it to standards if you want, which will help with the reports. And then once you have a quiz that you want to play, again, all your quizzes kind of show up over here. You just go to the launch tab. And so like if I wanted to launch a quiz with my students, with Socrative, it only lets you do one activity at a time per class. So unlike the other ones where you can have multiple games going, this one you can only do one at a time. So for secondary teachers, just kind of keep that in mind. You might have to stagger activities, like do one activity with your first hour class on Monday and then second hour class on Tuesday, or just reset it at the end of each class. But so I picked the quiz that I want to go ahead and launch. And then with this one, you have different choices. Instant feedback is where the student answers question 1, and then they automatically get to see if they get it right or wrong, and then they move on to question 2. With open navigation, they can bounce between questions, and they don't actually submit until the very, very end. And then again, they have that opportunity to see the ones they missed or not. Teacher pace is very similar to the time to climb, where the teacher controls the pace of the question. So everybody answers number 1, the teacher clicks next, and then everybody's answering question number 2. So whichever one you pick, you also have options over here where I would make sure you always leave this one checked because you want to see who answered the questions. You can shuffle questions, shuffle answers. You can turn the feedback off. So if you don't feel like writing an explanation for why it's right or why it's wrong, you can turn that one on or off. You can have the kids look at their final score. And then as soon as you hit start, the activity goes live for students. So with students accessing Socrative, it's not actually a link. They just go to Socrative.com, and instead of like a join code, they're actually going to enter your room name. So you can have one room under the free version. And if you want to change your room name, you can also do that over here, which I have an activity running, so I can't change it. But this is what you would actually share with students. So they would go to Socrative.com, which I can show you what it would look like from a student's view. And let's see. And then, so from a student's view, they go to Socrative.com, they click login, and then they would log in as student, and they would need to have that room code name, which I don't have copied. But that's a little bit about Socrative. Let me see if I can show you some screenshots and things. So, the students answer in real time. So once you have a game launched, it's nice because it's kind of like if you guys have used Galileo, you can see their answers in real time, and you can hide their names or not. So if you wanted to display the results up on the board for students to look at, you can hide their names, and as a class, you can kind of talk about ones that are commonly missed. But here, since I only had one question, but you see the question number, and then over here, it'll start showing up either red or green. And then as a students, their names will be listed in rows over here on the side. And then you can, like I said, hide the names, you can hide answers. And then as soon as you hit finish, then the kids will no longer have access to that quiz. So either at the end of each class or at the end of the day, you would just click finish. And then all those results, you can always go to this reports tab. So if you need to go back and access any of the quizzes that you've done in the past, you can see what type. So if it was an actual exit ticket, if it was a space race, or a quiz. So you have that reports tab as well. And for secondary teachers, if you want to create multiple rooms for different classes, that is an option with the pro account. But the free version allows you to do one room with up to 50 students. And you can have one activity going at a time in that room. And I think that's pretty much it for Socrative. It's really easy. It has a lot of templates for you. So again, if you're just wanting to ask one quick question at the end of class, here's more of a tutorial how to create a quiz. So if you need to go back to any of these to look at later, we definitely have this slideshow for you guys. You can play it remotely. So again, kids would just log into the room just like they would in class. And with self-paced, like I said, although it's possible because the activity stays live for as long as you have it launched, but only 50 students can be working on that at a time. So it wouldn't be an issue with elementary teachers, but secondary is definitely something to consider. With the results, again, you can download that as an Excel. You can have individual student PDFs if you wanted to email or print out reports. You can save things to your Google Drive, email those and share them with parents. And again, this kind of shows you how to use that share code. So if you create a Socrative quiz or activity that you want to share with other teachers, you just use that code there, and that kind of walks you through it. And also for each of these tools, we have a help page linked. So no matter if you're doing Kahoot, Quizlet, quizzes, at the very end, or you click on this help, we've got some links for you guys if you still have questions about any of these tools. So I think the last thing that we really wanted to kind of show you guys is how to actually share these through Canvas. I don't know, Katie, did you want to kind of try that, or did you want me to go over that with Canvas?
Up to you.
Okay. I can show you how to do that, I guess. Let's see. So in your Canvas, you'll have a course. So you'll click on that. And then over here, you can go to the assignments tab. And you'll just click this blue plus button for a new assignment. And then you can, I would go ahead and give it like a descriptive name, like get to know your teacher, Kahoot, or whatever it is. And then you can type in the directions. So click here to complete the practice Kahoot game. I'm just going to use Kahoot as an example. Let me see if I can get to mine real quick. All right, and then I would find the game. And like I said, you could do this with any tool as long as you get to that URL. So create. All right, so here is my URL. Again, you can do this with whichever tech tool you want. And then you come back here. Now you could just paste the link for kids to click on, but I like to keep the directions kind of nice and simple. So if you actually highlight the directions, and then you can click on this little chain link to URL button. You can also use the keyboard shortcut, Control K, and then it'll give you an option to paste your link. Down here, you can decide if you want it to open up in a new window, like a new tab. So now when the kids click that, it'll take them directly to that game. You can assign a point value. You can give your assignments a group, like let's say this will go into a classwork grade. Maybe this is an ungraded assignment, or it could show the letter grade. There's really no submission for this for students, but you can change it. You know, if they have to turn in, maybe you want them to write up a little reflection when they're done after they play the game. You can do it as a group assignment. The other neat thing about Canvas is that you can actually pick specific students to assign it to. So if you're doing this as a remediation, or maybe you have a few gifted students that you want to do like a challenge, you can pick and choose which students you want to assign it to. You can pick the due date and pick the time. You can also schedule it to be available. So if you want to create this but not have it visible for students yet, you can kind of lock it until a certain date. And then similar to Google Classroom, if you hit save, that just kind of saves it as a draft. So students will not be able to see it right away. If you click save and publish, it becomes live and students will be able to see it immediately in their Canvas. So with students, they'll just see this, and then when they click on the link, it'll take them to Kahoot. And again, it opened up in a new tab, and they enter a nickname. Just use my initials. And since this is a self-paced one, I have access to the questions and the answers.
Hannah, do we know if they do the Kahoot, it'll grade the Kahoot, but the scores will only go to Kahoot, right? We would have
Yes.
to manually enter
so
it on Canvas.
the scores won't necessarily talk to Canvas or integrate. So if you use a Kahoot, you would have to look at the Kahoot reports. Same way with Quizlet, quizzes, Socrative, you would only be able to see their scores in there. Now, because our district has that special Nearpod integration, Nearpod is the only one that I believe the scores will import into Canvas for you. Because in Canvas, if I wanted to create a Nearpod assignment, let's see if this is going to work this time. If I come down here to submission type, it's actually Nearpod is linked as an external tool. So if you notice, our district has access to like Discovery Ed, Flipgrid, here's Nearpod. And then now I can see my Nearpod library and I can go ahead and do a student-paced version. Oops, let's add a name. And now what's cool is that it's actually embedded into Canvas. So the kids don't even have to click on a separate link. They can complete the activity without ever leaving Canvas. And then over here, you have this speed grader. So it'll pull their scores from the activity into Canvas for you. So currently that's the only one out of these 5 that will do that. But I think the other tools, their reports are pretty user friendly. So it's not, it's one extra step, but it doesn't take too long. One last thing that I was going to mention to you guys, there are ways to actually embed Kahoot, Quizlet, and quizzes, similar to how this shows up in Canvas. It's a little bit more, takes a little bit more technical skills, but if you guys are interested, there's a way to do that using an iframe code. So if you go to here to embed, there's a tutorial with some step-by-step slides. It just takes a little bit extra steps, but if you don't want, especially for elementary, if you don't want the kids to have a ton of new tabs open, there is a way to do that. It just takes a little bit longer. So I think that's all I have. Is there anything else you can think about with like Canvas? Or anything that I'm missing, Katie?
Somebody asked, I kind of told them to wait just a minute, but yeah, you could add the links. You can embed the links so it shows in there. But you can also, if you're starting to work on your modules, you can add it into a module. So if you know that you're going to want to do like a pre and post assessment, you could have like that set up in your module in the beginning as like a page. So you could go to the page and say, take this, Kahoot quiz on living and non-living things. And then at the end of the module, you could put it there too.
Yeah.
If you're using Nearpod, so Nearpod is a lesson. So, you can use Nearpod in your module and put a time to climb in there to check for an assessment and understanding during your lesson of Nearpod. So you don't have to just do it as an individual assignment. You could post it as in your module as well if you're planning for those checks. Those would be good to have those like end of unit checks. Those would be tools that you could use as well and that you've kind of already planned for. But if you want to just throw one in there because you're like, I think I need to check and see where we're at, that's when you could just use it as an assignment. I prefer embedding elementary wise. I prefer embedding them into the actual assignment versus just throwing the link in there, because then, if kids end up doing virtual, that means they're going to have to click on the link. That means they're going to have to enter the code, and that means that they're going to have to take it. So sometimes it's just easier to embed it into Canvas. Sometimes I know with time to climb, it takes a bit to load. So you have to tell them, just be patient. It's going to take a minute to load, but it does still interconnect, which is really nice.
Yeah, and I went ahead and shared that link to our presentation. So if you guys want to use any of those activities or go back and look at those tutorials, there should be a bit.ly link in the question and answer for you. One last thing I did want to mention, Katie found this really interesting video that if you're not sure which of these tools to use, it kind of weighs the pros and cons of using, I think it was Kahoot, Quizlet, and Quizzes. So like which one is the best for me. So it's a little bit long, so we're not going to share it now. But if you're curious kind of more in depth, like saying, oh, these look really interesting, but I don't know which one would be best for my purpose, it kind of helps you kind of go through that flow chart of, okay, here's what to use this one for, and here's, a better use of this other one. So that's in that presentation as well. But I think that's kind of all. I mean, we're at about an hour, so feel free to hang around for a few more minutes if you guys have questions. And other than that, thank you guys for coming, and I hope you learned something about the tech tools. So
I know we went kind of fast in an hour.
yeah, we did. It was definitely the Fast and the Furious. So
I know. Yeah. But yeah, if anyone has any other questions, if not, thanks for coming. I'm gonna hit stop recording. So
sounds good. Thank you guys.